Okay, it's on now.
3, 2, boleh Bu?
Okay, thank you. Good evening, honorable participant and speaker in Amerika. Good morning, honorable participant and speaker in Indonesia. Selamat pagi semuanya. Today, webinar aims to establish direct communication in building the arts and cultural research and education collaboration between US and Indonesia higher education, as well as the art and cultural communities, to initiate and plan activities that can be executed in building stronger ties between the American and Indonesian art and cultural communities. So on behalf of the Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia for the US, he sent his best regard to all honorable speaker and participant for attending this event. So we would like to take this opportunity to thank for sustained support from the Ministry of Education and Culture, the Republic of Indonesia, the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Washington, D.C., the Indonesia Rector Forum of Public University of Indonesia, and Indonesian Art and Cultural Institute of Bandung or ISBI Bandung. This webinar will be conducted in Bahasa Indonesia and also English mix. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I look forward to the conversation and the question and answer session to follow. So I would like to share the video of the event now. Okay, thank you. Now we are going to invite the representative from Chancellor Council of Public Universities of Indonesia, Professor Muhammad Asari, as the Vice Chairman of Chancellor Council of Public State University, dan juga sebagai Rektor dari ITS di Surabaya. Silakan, Prof. Welcome.
Terima kasih, Bu Poppy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah.
Morning, good evening, all distinguished participants and speakers. Special to Ibu Poppy. Thank you very much. I think the same thing, yeah. On behalf of CRISU, we call it CRISU. Council of Rector of Indonesia State University atau Majelis Rektor Perguruan Tinggi Negeri Indonesia. I would like to convey dari Pak Jamal Woho as the Chairman of CRISU that could not attend this event this morning. So I would like to thanks for arrangement, especially Bu Poppy and also Ibu En for this event today. And also thank you very much for all distinguished speakers that this morning. I think our topic is very, very interesting, yeah? Education and arts and culture. I think Ibu En, the Professor En is apa namanya ya, very special person for the arts, yeah, because Ibu En is the rector of ISPI. So I hope that on behalf of KRAISU, Council of Rector of Indonesia State University, now we have 92 members, ya. Ada 92 anggota Majelis Rektor Perguruan Tinggi Negeri Indonesia ini, yang diantaranya adalah Pak Ilham selaku Acting Director. Mengucapkan terima kasih sekali lagi kepada Bapak Ibu semuanya. Thank you very much, and we hope that this event will speed up the use of technology for arts and culture. As we know, during this pandemic, COVID-19, yeah, the technology has the most rapid change in the world, including we are using now online meeting, yeah. So we hope, yeah, dengan even this morning we share our knowledge, we share updating technology. So we hope that the use of technology, especially for art and culture, could be instantly used, yeah, to improve everything here in Indonesia and also in USA. So we update our condition in Indonesia and also in USA. The other thing is, we hope that this event could improve the collaboration among university, ya. Jadi setiap universitas ISPI itu ada beberapa. We have some ISPI, University of Arts and Culture in Indonesia. Nah, ini Bu En yang tahu ada berapa jumlahnya. And then that is very very useful if we can improve the collaboration between these universities that have the same field. Yeah, so we hope that this event will give a fruitful for and mutual collaboration, mutual benefits for this country, USA and Indonesia. Yeah, I think again, thank you very much, Bu Poppy. Terima kasih sekali nih, Ibu yang energik sekali, luar biasa. Atas nama KRAISU, atas nama TNI, terima kasih untuk semuanya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Iya, terima kasih Prof. Asari sebagai Rektor ITS dan juga perwakilan dari Majelis Rektor Perguruan Tinggi Negeri Indonesia. Thank you very much, Professor Asari, as the Rector from Institute of Technology 10 November Surabaya, ya, in Surabaya, and also as the Vice Chairman from the Rector Council or Chancellor Council of Public University. So congratulations, now the MRPTNI or the Chancellor Council of Public Public University consists of 92 universities. So it is large universities. We are hoping that the number of university from the US also could engage with more collaboration. Nah, sekarang kami akan mengundang Ibu Rektor dari Institut Seni dan Budaya Indonesia di Bandung, Profesor EN, yang juga sebagai anggota dari MRPTNI untuk menyampaikan sambutannya. Kami persilahkan Prof. EN.
Baik, terima kasih Bu Poppy. Suara saya jelas?
Jelas, sangat clear. Wonderful.
Oke, baik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sampurasun. Good morning to all of us in Indonesia and good evening to all audience in America. Good health and peace to all of us. Wilujeng wengi Prof. Poppy, Kang Burhan, Bu An, juga masyarakat Indonesia dan Amerika yang ada di Amerika yang mencintai kebudayaan Indonesia. Terima kasih juga saya sampaikan kepada Prof. Ashari yang sudah memberikan pengantar webinar ini dan memperkenalkan Majelis Rektor Perguruan Tinggi Negeri Republik Indonesia di tengah kesibukannya sebagai Rektor Institut Teknologi 10 November Surabaya yang sudah mensupport kegiatan webinar bidang seni budaya dan izinkan saya menggunakan bahasa campuran yang karena saya tahu bahwa para speaker maupun audiens mengerti bahasa Indonesia. Terima kasih. The respectable Indonesia Education and Cultural Artase Washington DC and all notable speakers both from Indonesia and from America. They are Dr. Ismet Ruhimat from Indonesia, Matt Dening, Executive Director Nusantara of Buffalo from New York, Pak Burhan Sukarna and Ray Ann from California, Chris Miller from Cornell University, Itasan, New York, and Jillian Irwin from University California, Davis, yang jago bernyanyi dangdut itu ya, Ibu Jillian. On this happy occasion, on behalf of ISBI Bandung and at the same time, respective the Indonesian College Director Council atau MRPTNI and the Indonesian Art College Cooperation Agency would like to thank Propopi Rufaidah, Indonesia Education and Cultural Atase, who facilitated this webinar activity. My thanks also go to Mr. Matt Denning, Executive Director of Nusantara Arts, Buffalo, New York, who continuously raises Indonesia cultural arts in the webinar series conducted by Nusantara Arts. I greatly appreciate all participants for your concern and love to Indonesia culture. Cultural diversity is one of the excellencies of Indonesia. This needs to keep receiving attention from various parties, government, society, educational institutions, industry, and the media. If this cultural diversity is left without effort to the maintained and developed, it will disappear in line with the massive globalization. One of the efforts to maintain this is the collaboration in research, in which the result can be disseminated to the wider community. We all know that there are so many researchers from all over the world who focus on Indonesia culture. This is a positive thing how these researchers view and position Indonesia culture and something unique that need to be explored in depth. Among them are the resource persons in the webinar. Their research greatly enriches Indonesia cultural literacy. Generally, researchers are as well as observer participants so that when they finish the research, they immediately master the practice. Lot of researchers from America who master Japanese gamelan, West Java, Central Java, East Java, Bali, Sumatra, and others. Even now, there are hundreds of gamelan groups in America. Luar biasa ya, banyak sekali grup-grup gamelan yang terus menghidupkan kesenian Indonesia di Amerika yang tersebar di berbagai kota di Amerika. This has been done. Katie Foley from Santa Cruz University, who continues to teach Sundanese gamelan more than 44 until now, and has produced students who also continue to develop Sundanese gamelan either in various university or in the community. Thank you, Prof. Katie. Mudah-mudahan Prof. Katie juga hadir di sekarang. And as well as other researchers, so Indonesian gamelan keeps growing in various countries. Hopefully, the collaboration between ISBI Bandung and college in Indonesia which are under auspice of BKSPTSI atau Badan Kerjasama Perguruan Tinggi Seni di Indonesia yang terdiri atas 9 perguruan tinggi seni, yaitu ada ISBI Aceh, ISI Padang Panjang, Institut Kesenian Jakarta, ISBI Bandung, ISI Yogyakarta, ISI Surakarta, Sekolah Tinggi Kesenian Wilwatikta Surabaya, ISHI Denpasar, dan ISBI Papua can collaborate with researchers in America. The same expectation also goes to Nusantara Arts that really loves Indonesia culture. That is what I can express to this on this occasion. Have a fruitful webinar. Thank you so much. Salam sehat, salam lestari budaya. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Iya, terima kasih Prof. EN untuk sambutannya sangat komprehensif sekali dan merupakan suatu langkah yang sangat strategis dapat kami sampaikan. So we would like to inform that on behalf of ISBI Bandung, the rector of ISBI Bandung, Professor EN, very energetic and then very progressive and also immediately respond to our offer for hosting this event. Dan ini adalah bukan yang pertama ya, this is not the first, the US Indonesia Research and Education collaboration in art and culture, since we have 9 institutions as Professor SEN mentioned, ISBI in Aceh, Padang, Jakarta, Bandung, Yogyakarta, Solo, Surabaya, Denpasar, and Jayapura. Hopefully we could come close together to host the collaboration in research and collaboration between Indonesian art and cultural institution and also US art and cultural institution and communities. Terima kasih. Selanjutnya kita akan mengundang kepada narasumber selanjutnya, yaitu dari Bapak Dr. Ismet Rusimat ya, dari ISBI Bandung. Kami persilahkan Bapak Dr. Ismet.
Baik, terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Gimana, suara saya jelas nggak?
Clear, Pak. It's very clear. Wonderful.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and good evening. It's just a great honor for me to have with this wonderful session and wonderful people here. And also, I would like to thank for Ibu Poppy also for inviting me to join with this occasion. So now for me, it's a little bit small, and then since I started my career as a pangrawit, the world is getting smaller, and then now with the pandemic, it's getting more and more smaller, and we can have meet each other more directly. So basically, what I don't have some kind of like a presentation as a formal, but I need to talk a little bit about what we already done and what we are going to do with the education in ISBI Bandung, for example. So since right now, during the pandemic, we just have finished some practical, basically with the examination, final examinations. Mostly the students, they did with kind of the virtual examinations. So one things, the good things for the students, so they more creative, they make some produce with themselves and then make some videos and everything. So I think this is a kind of the new normal things and the new idea for the students. They're more creative. Even everything is very, very hard to do it, but at the end they did it. This is such a good thing for new things also for us as lecturers at ISBI Bandung. So now, but some of the faculty or some of the department like fine art also still have a not quite good opportunity to do it, because like they still find the good solution for examination for the fine art, for example. But yeah, during now, the pandemic is getting more and more worse. Also in Bandung now, still getting close to the lockdown again, and so we had a more uncertain way to do more creative. But I'm sure we will have find the good way to have the solution. So some of the lecturers during the 3 months ago, they traveled around the countries in West Java. For example, they bring some instruments to every kabupaten, yeah, to give some lesson directly to for the students. For example, they bring sorba, they bring some flutes, and also if they ask also some gamelan, if in that area there is a gamelan. So this is one of another way that we did for help the student in order to they still can continue to participate for practical lesson for gamelan. Also some point in the practical department and dance, for example, also some student they find some solution to find some outdoor space. So for example, they came to Sanggar and then they find a solution. They make some practice in Sanggar, and then they make video, and then they make a produce for reportation simultaneous to the lecturer, and then every lecturer can have some point for progression what the student did. So basically, in ISB Bandung, our situation now is more and less like that. But also some of the reasons why we still need to have a practical lesson, because it's quite interesting stories. For example, in the place, some student cannot have any kind of the instrument, for example, like bonang. They put some like a pot or piring or mangkok, and then just put some notes, and then it just show to the lecturers. This is what very interesting way also for student. Even there's no exact the note, but they use some of the number from the piring, and then just playing on the piring or plate or something else, and then they show to the lecturers. So I think, yeah, this is the hardest things that we have situations, for example, to learn or to teach about the gamelan situation in Bandung. But I don't know what is the right way in America, for example, because I think also all these situations is same in the world also. Like what we are talking with Professor Andrew a few months ago is about how to do it between Indonesian and American students to learn the gamelan. So I think I heard also they had also the same situation and problem with what the Indonesian student having now, I think. So basically, this is the like some sketch of the situation from the ISB Bandung. So I hope the next talking we can just sharing, because this is really quite a good occasion for me to share, to get some idea, basically not only what we already have and already done or already good to do with ISB, but basically we need to have some solutions. I'm sure in some university they already have some good solution for this situation. Thank you very much, Bu Poppy.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Dr. Ismet for highlighting some strategical issues in building the research and education collaboration between Indonesian art and cultural institution, and also between the US art and cultural communities. And now we are going to invite the next presenter, Mr. Matt Dunning atau Mas Matt ya, the Executive Director Nusantara Art based in Buffalo, New York. So Nusantara Art is one of the U.S. art and cultural institution who has been building strong ties between Indonesia and the U.S. in enhancing the collaboration, particularly in gamelan. So now we are going to welcome Bapak Matt Dunning. Silakan Pak Matt.
Terima kasih Bu Poppy.
Ya.
Selamat pagi di Indonesia, selamat malam di Amerika.
Yeah.
Okay, so maaf, saya dipakai bahasa Inggris untuk presentasi.
Yeah, please in English is okay. Yeah.
Okay, I will share my screen here. I'm very excited to be here tonight. I'm very happy to have so many distinguished guests here that are interested in the topic of collaboration between Indonesia and the United States, because it makes the situation much better for all of us if we can do some collaboration. Let me share my screen. Okay. This is the first time I ever used PowerPoint, so if there's some mistake, I apologize. Okay, so connections and collaborations between Indonesian and American artists and audience in 2021 and beyond. Now, we had a situation in 2020 that nobody expected. Nobody thought COVID was going to happen and be as difficult of a situation as it was. So we were forced to come up with some unique solutions so that we could continue to exist in our daily lives, and then beyond that, in order to engage with the things that we love and the things that make life worth, really living. So including arts and culture, and also personal connections. So it's very important that we facilitate these collaborations. In 2021, the COVID situation is still a problem in my city here in Buffalo, New York. The situation is worse now than it was earlier in the year. And we're probably having some lockdowns in the coming weeks and months. And this is just the beginning of wintertime here. And we expect it to be worse during this point. My gamelan group here in Buffalo has not practiced in a little while. We do some practices over the summer, but because of COVID, our usual activities are completely turned off. So we had to make some adjustments, and we had to change our priorities a little bit. But in that same time, we're also able to learn a lot, and we're also able to engage with the culture that we love in a new way that is beneficial to us and also hopefully to our friends in Indonesia. How do I change my slide? Oh, there we go. So what are the benefits of cross-cultural collaboration? And not just cross-cultural, but different locations as well, across the world. So the first thing, that the biggest benefit, I think, is to create a sustainability and a potency for the learning and spreading of Indonesian art and culture. So when I first started learning about Indonesian culture and art, when I was living in Chicago, I wasn't really aware of the greater world of the culture and art in the United States. I was sort of learning in a very secluded situation, but it's a really vast community. And this community has been existing for a long time. And this cross-cultural connection between the United States and Indonesia has lasted for a long time. You know, in the future, what we have to do is think about how can we create this connection and how can we maintain this connection in a way that is both sustainable in the future and also is very vibrant, you know, so that we have a very good connection, that we're learning and we're really benefiting from this connection. Number two, the benefits of this collaboration are for musicians and fans of the culture to be more familiar with current events and activities, both in the United States and in Indonesia. Another issue I had when I was starting to learn gamelan music was that I wasn't really aware of the different types of activities that were happening around the world. This new technology and our new engagement with new technology has shown us that we can actually engage, you know, across vast distances and really benefit from, you know, this engagement. So we can learn who musicians are. We can learn, you know, what is being performed right now in Indonesia. What are the popular songs? What are the popular places that people are performing at? You know, what's the situation in the United States with the different community groups here? And this sort of goes to number three here, putting names to faces. So when we know each other personally, I believe that we will thrive better. So, you know, if we have personal connections with Indonesian students, teachers, musicians, composers, you know, we're more likely to have this sustainability because we're in a personal relationship with each other. And if we have an ability to let Indonesians know what we're doing in the United States to help promote the culture and perform gamelan music here, hopefully we can get a more beneficial relationship in the United States with more Indonesian artists, you know, who would like to participate in some way with what we're trying to do over here. Number four, interconnected people support each other in times of need. So if we don't know each other very well, it's going to be very hard to help when things go wrong. So over this last year during COVID, a lot of the gamelan community in the United States came together and we raised a lot of money to help to support some of our Indonesian musicians, our friends and our teachers who are having trouble financially because of the COVID crisis. Now, as we go forward, it's important to keep these relationships alive. So when there is a bad situation, we can help each other. And that goes both ways. Indonesian people have helped American people so many times in our music and our cultural lives. It's beyond monetary, you know, for us in many ways. We love that support. The other thing that is really important about this cross-cultural connection is access and democratization. So the more we have these connections and the more we can support these types of these communications, we allow more access to this information and to this culture. So instead of this situation being where, you know, the culture lives in a vacuum in a certain place, now we have the ability, especially through digital technology, for more people to access this culture and this information in the United States and in Indonesia. So digital connection. So I believe that as a community, we should continue to create more digital programming that engages Indonesians and Americans, musicians, as well as cultural enthusiasts. We should continue to do this. And I believe that we should continue to access these digital connections even when COVID is resolved. So once the COVID situation is done, I believe that we can take the tools and skills we have learned and the good things that we have learned in this time, you know, the things that we've learned to help connect closer to each other. I think we should continue to do these things after the COVID crisis, you know. So what are the highlights of different types of programming that we can create. I think the first thing is that the programming should be mutually beneficial and interactive. So I think the programming will be it will be responded to the best when both Indonesians and Americans can interact and benefit from this type of programming. Number two, financial needs need to be considered, of course, because programming costs money, both in Indonesia and the United States, in time and talent. Number three, how to engage group members. This is sort of a question for United States organizations, maybe more so than Indonesian, but also in Indonesia it's a little different. In the US, how do we, as group leaders and cultural ambassadors, how do we engage our members of our organizations? And how do we encourage more participation from our group members and spread it out into our community? And the other question here is, how can we engage more Indonesian students and musicians to be engaged in this programming? What are the things that people want to engage with, and what would they like to continue to be engaged with? I believe that one of the things that we can also think about when creating programming is variety as well as consistency. So Nusantara Arts, when the COVID crisis was happening, we created a lecture series, and we invited many different types of people to present on many different types of topics over the course of 4 months. We had lectures twice per week. So the consistency was, everybody knew when these programs were happening. They were the same time every week, but the variety kept people coming back and learning because they wanted to learn more and more about different things. Now, one of the beauties of Indonesia is the diversity of Indonesian culture and arts. There's so many different things you can learn, and so many things that are interesting for people here in the United States and in Indonesia that, wow, it's endless. There's endless different types of culture, endless different contexts for learning. And I think if we engage that variety, people will never get bored, and people will always want to come back and continue to learn. So this is an example of an upcoming event that is being promoted, and it is a sort of a collaboration here between Nusantara Arts, the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Washington, D.C., specifically the Cultural Attaché, Poppy, thank you, as well as Sanggar Ekalaya, which is a small arts and culture organization outside of Solo. So this is a very interesting program that we've developed here, sort of going along those different ideas that we put in the previous slide. So the idea here is to create a music performance, a music klanningen, that is both going to be engaging, relevant, modern, and classic all at the same time. And it's going to be able to be something that people can engage with now, but also in the future. So we are asking Javanese musicians and composers to create new pieces of music, but in classical idioms that will be live streamed in a virtual performance. And then after that, we'll publish these new compositions in a book in both the United States and Indonesia. Now, this book is also going to have some biographies of the different composers, because it's very important that we know who people are. You know, if we just have the music, it's one thing, but really the personal connection and the information about the people that are involved is almost as important as learning about the music itself. So this is a program that will be happening in late January. We were going to do it in December, but we are actually postponing it till after the new year. And I believe that this type of event is one example of something that we can hope to achieve over the next year as we sort of look at what are the possibilities for this cultural collaboration, and how can we make more events that are sort of like this? So there are some concerns. Once we create an event, for example, so we've already made the event, and here are the problems that come with making digital events. Access, how to let the people know. So there's different ways that we can let people know about events. We have email, Facebook, Instagram. There's different WhatsApp text message groups. But there has to be, a way that we're sort of letting people know that these events are happening. And it's often difficult to get new people learning about events, even if they might be interested in it. You have to always think about that. Number two, financial. In the United States with artists, we say, no one likes to die from exposure. So what a lot of times in the United States happens is people say, oh, we'll just, you get to work for free, but you get exposure. But actually, exposure doesn't put food on the table. So what we need to do is make sure that when we're creating events like these, the collaborators in Indonesia are financially, they're helped in this so that they can do what they're doing and also make a living from what they're doing as well. Number three, one of the problems is that, especially in COVID times, it's nothing like the real thing. So how do we overcome this problem? How do we engage these digital events, even though they're a little bit different than what it's like when we actually get to meet with each other, play music, and learn from each other. And the other problem we have here is that there's simply too many activities. What we've seen over the last 2 or 3 months is that there are so many digital performances happening. Oh, it's incredible. It's really amazing. Both in the United States, around the world, and in Indonesia, it's almost every single day there's some type of digital arts and culture event happening. So it's really hard to keep track of how many things are going on. And if you don't really pay very close attention and make a schedule for yourself, you're going to accidentally miss an activity or an event that you'd like to attend. So we came up with some idea here for what one solution to this last problem here, and which would be a universal calendar. So this is an idea that we came up with to help we want to help the Indonesian world, the Indonesian cultural world, understand what the events are, when they're happening, and we can help by making a calendar that's accessible to Indonesians and people in the United States, so we could find out about when activities are happening instead of hearing about it by word of mouth or some other way. So what are the implications of having a universal calendar here? You'll never miss an event. There's more opportunities to learn and enjoy. You could learn about gamelan groups around the world. So we'll let you know about events that are happening in the United States, but also in Great Britain, in Russia, in different European countries, in South America, in Mexico. You get to dip your toes into other Indonesian traditions. So we would like to promote events that are not just happening in Central Java, in West Java and East Java and Bali, but also promote events that are in Kalimantan and also Sumatra and other disparate areas of Indonesia. So we'd like to figure out how to engage with different communities that are putting on digital programming so people can interact with them. This is also going to help increase notoriety for master musicians. Everybody in the world knows who Beethoven is, right? Not everybody in the world knows who the best, Indonesian master musicians are. And I believe that's a problem because the the culture of Indonesia is on par with any Western culture, especially the musical culture. And we should know the names, and we should know the who these people are. And I believe if we are able to promote these events, we can know who the modern musicians are, and we can help them become more well known throughout the world. The other benefit here, is make the global local. So this is going to help us to bring the whole world, to our living room. I think I have one more slide here. So the different elements that we could do here: Indonesian and English languages. It needs to look good. It must be easy to submit programming. It also must be hostable anywhere online. So for example, anybody could take the code and plug it into their own website so that their communities could access this, this calendar from their own community's website. It must be curated and updated regularly. And how will it come together? Of course, we need to find the funding to create and design this calendar. We've already started working on it here. It needs to be easy to use. We must have consistency and dependability in the management of a calendar like this. We must have accurate translations from Indonesian to English. So whoever's managing the calendar must be fluent in English and Indonesian. And the most difficult thing, though, is the community buy-in. Oh, that should be number 5. Community buy-in means having people that are invested in this idea so that it actually gets used. If we have the tool but nobody uses it, it's not really useful for anybody. So we need to make partnerships with different communities in Indonesia and the United States and around the world to make sure that these are, to make sure that it's something that people want to use, and and their events will be promoted here as well. And I think that's all I have here. That is my email address. You can feel free to contact me, matt@nusantaraarts.com. And thank you for this ability to make this presentation here tonight. And I will just stop my screen sharing.
Okay, wonderful, Pak Matt. The presentation elaborate and then extend the horizon of the US and Indonesia research and education collaboration in art and culture. Sangat menarik sekali ya, Prof. EN, kemudian Prof. Ashari, Rektor ITS, Rektor ISBI, ini kolaborasi. This is a very good combination. ITS as one of the university that are based with technology, and then ISBI, the higher institution that based in art and culture. And then Nusantara Art has highlighted the importance of a digital transformation. Thank you very much, Bapak Matt, for highlighting very basic and very important things for us during this new normal. Now we would like to invite the very harmonious and very great couple, Pak Burhan dan Ibu En, untuk mempresentasikan materinya. Pak Burhan Sukarma is the director of Pusaka Sunda in San Jose, California, and Ibu N is the co-founder Pusaka Sunda in San Jose, California. Please welcome Pak Burhan dan Ibu N.
Selamat pagi, selamat malam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have a few slides, so I'll try and share the screen. Just a sec. Get in slideshow. There we go. So as you heard from Ibu Popi, we're from Pusaka Sunda in San Jose, California. And here's a picture of our gamelan instruments. And this is kind of what they look like right now, since we're not able to practice together. We did have a few rehearsals socially distanced outside, but we've even had to stop that. So let's go to the next slide. So we're one of more than 30 active gamelan groups in California, and those groups perform a variety of Indonesian arts, but mostly focus on arts from Java, Sunda, and Bali. There's a fairly equal mix of community and university groups, and both have things that they could bring to US-Indonesian collaborations. So community groups, they tend to have a lot of flexibility. They're not tied to a university schedule. The groups usually own their instruments, so they're able to transport them as needed for performances or other events. Community groups often have musicians and dancers with years of artistic experience. So universities groups often have more access to performance spaces. They sometimes also have the ability to get university funding, something that's sometimes more of a challenge for community groups. And then universities also have student audiences to support performances. I think both types of gamelan groups should be included in any type of collaboration projects with gamelan groups. So a good example of a successful collaborative event is the Indonesian cultural event that's put on by the San Francisco, it's been put on by the San Francisco Consulate for the past 3 years. And this event showcases Bay Area gamelan groups performing music, dance, and wayang. So that's the most recent poster from that event. And the previous year's event also had dance groups from Sulawesi. So there were at least 6 groups performing that year. So some of the positives from that event include the opportunity to plan, perform, and socialize with other gamelan groups and the Indonesian consulate staff. It's another chance for groups to perform at a venue that had really good sound and lighting, really nice stage. And it was a free event. So in our case, our regular audience members were able to come to this nice free event and then also experience other types of gamelan besides just Sundanese gamelan. So some of the challenges of the event, the logistics of moving instruments on and off the stage. So that's always an issue with even one group performing, but when you have 6 groups performing, it can be a little bit difficult. And I think the length of the performance also, when you have so many groups, each group, I mean, if you're going to go to the effort of bringing your instruments to somewhere and getting them on stage, you want to be able to perform for at least 30 minutes. So performances can then be a little bit too long for audiences. So I think one of the things to think about in any sort of planning for events is sometimes wanting to be as inclusive as possible is not always the best experience for the audience. So it's just something to think about in planning performances. Okay, so other opportunities for collaboration. So a highlight of many gamelan activities is the opportunities for collaboration with artists from Indonesia. And I think this is something that Matt spoke on too. And these artists often participate in performances and lead workshops. Many groups also collaborate with Indonesian artists when they're visiting or touring Indonesia. So this is a photo that shows, sorry, that's, if you can hear that, that's our clock, 6 o'clock. The photo shows members of Pusaka Sunda performing with Sundanese musicians in Bandung. So I think anytime this sort of collaboration is able to happen, it's really wonderful. I know in our case for the musicians in Pusaka Sunda, it was a wonderful experience. So our group might also collaborate with visiting artists on the recording and release of new music. We've started to do some of this in Indonesia and would like to do this in the US too. And I think Pusaka Sunda would love to have the opportunity to perform, learn, and record with a Sundanese vocalist in the US. So that's kind of our wish list. So I kept this short, and I think Matt spoke on a lot of things, and I'm sure some of the other speakers will too. But so that's pretty much what I have. Okay, we're out of screen sharing. Yes, thank you. Do you have anything to add? No. Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much Ibu Ann dan Pak Burhan for highlighting the joint collaboration. And I think this is a very nice highlight, and also the issue about COVID pandemic, and then the alternative for establishing more productive collaboration. I think Professor Asari, as director of ITS, lots of homework, how we could collaborate in art and culture as the basic foundation in our education, not only in technology but also in art and culture. Okay, thank you. Now we are going to invite the next speaker. The next speaker is Bapak Chris Miller, Mr. Chris Miller, Dr. Chris Miller from Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. Please welcome Pak Miller, Pak Chris.
Selamat pagi kawan-kawan di Indonesia dan selamat malam.
Pagi.
Terima kasih untuk kesempatan ini. I will also speak in English for my presentation. And what I was really expecting to talk about and what I prepared was more the idea of activities in the US, some idea of a gamelan festival. I think it might be useful to, as an example of what might be possible and how collaboration can fit into activities going on here in the US. I think some of the ideas that I just want to, before I talk about those and some of the things that I've been involved in organizing, just wanted to say that I think some of Matt's ideas and proposals are excellent, not only for what can we do in this current situation of the pandemic when it's really difficult to meet together, but going forward, how can we put on events and share events using online technology that allows us, internet technologies, to do things online, to meet together online and bridge these huge distances. That otherwise it would be very difficult to share. I mean, YouTube, of course, has done this sort of automatically with people just recording what they do and sharing it online. But to maybe think about ways to do it in a more deliberate way. And a calendar, I think, is one excellent idea, and I think there could be others as well. So maybe some ideas of festivals. I think Matt didn't talk about the lecture series that he organized too much, but that really, I think, has done a huge amount to energize the community here, not only in the United States. It was primarily here in the United States, but in Canada, some participants from Canada, but also people would sign in from all over the world. even though there was sort of a US focus and a US start to it. So I think there's a lot of potential in those models. Maybe briefly, so I am an instructor. I'm a senior lecturer in the music department at Cornell University. We've been very lucky here at Cornell. I will share my screen here. Very lucky that I have Cornell has tremendous resources, and it's in a small town, so is isolated enough that I actually have been able to teach gamelan in person this fall semester, up until a couple of weeks before the Thanksgiving, which is a little bit like Lebaran, as far as a major holiday where everybody goes home for the holiday. And so they knew that students would go home. They didn't want them traveling back to Ithaca and bringing the virus back with them. So now everybody will be online. But for 2.5 months, or maybe even a little longer, yeah, we were able to have rehearsals with everyone wearing a mask and fewer people rehearsing at one time. But I think we're incredibly lucky. It also is because Cornell was able to do a lot of testing. So this is the course that I teach, which has in-person rehearsal component so that students do learn to to play the instruments. But then there's also a seminar component, and we talk about all different aspects of music in Indonesia. So I show that in this in the web page here. So that's Inul Daratista, so Dangdut Star, Wayang. We talk about Wayang, and this was just one. I mean, these are just a few examples of the huge diversity of different music. But this is a group called Nos from Jogja that I performed on a set with at Taman Budaya Surakarta, the Bukan Musik Biasa series. So I was performing with Darsono Hadiraharjo and Jessica Kenny. It was they invited me to perform with them. Those are actually our instruments on the stage there. They performed around them. So this is a group of they're mostly from North Sumatra. So they're mostly Batak. And here this musician's playing a Batak Hasapi, but he also learned to play the Sape from Kalimantan. And so they use those as lead instruments in basically an instrumental rock band. But to give you a sense of the kind of things that my students do, these are some of the topics that they are, this is an example of mine. But so fusion music, someone talking about lekra, which is quite interesting. That's the first time that's happened. Underground music, Chinese, Indonesian. So we really, discrimination and effects on music. So we really grapple with, some really difficult and sensitive issues. Champrasari was another topic. So it's different every semester, every year. I teach this course every year. Okay, so, but then shifting more to an example of a project that I did, that I helped organize, I mostly organized. Andy McGraw, he and I were students at Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut. So that's where Bapak Sumarsam and Bapak Harjito are the two Javanese gamelan musicians who Sumarsam, of course, is a full professor. Bapak Harjito is an artist in residence. And together they run the gamelan program and also teach other courses. So Andy McGraw, my colleague Andy, we were both graduate students at the time. And we were both involved in numerous groups throughout the Northeast. And we thought, why don't we get these groups together? This hasn't happened, where different groups come together and play for each other and get to just mingle and ngobrol and So we put on this weekend. We called it, and we thought a lot about the name of the event. And this is what we came up with. New England refers to the states in the furthest northeastern corner of the United States. So New York is not really part of New England, although it's right beside New England, and there were groups from New York City and also from Cornell, where I now teach. So we had special events, 2 Wayang performances, Javanese and Balinese, and then a Klingon. And so this was really any of the participants who wanted to join could. Actually, at the same time that we had Javanese gamelan upstairs in the World Music Hall, there were some people just hanging out downstairs, and they got out Gender Wayang, Balinese Gender Wayang. And so anybody who wanted to join in playing that could. And this was actually, I think, was a way that really worked to involve a lot of people. It was pretty much all voluntary. There was no, the funding was really just that we provided food and money for publicity, but people paid their own way to get there, and we provided a little bit of accommodation, but really quite informally. There were paper presentations and a couple of workshops, and then daytime performances. So this did go all day, but you could come and go. So it was a little more, it really was more the festival atmosphere. So it wasn't keeping an audience captive. There were events that would be for an audience to sit from start to finish if they wanted, although with Wayang, of course, you can come and go as you please. And so we did make that possible. What else to say about this? Although it was mostly local groups, we did take advantage of Kuat. Pak Kuat was an Indonesian musician who was from Banyumas, who was, I forget why he was in the United States at the time, but I know that he and Jody Diamond, who I saw on the call, I'm not sure if you're still there, Jody, there's so many participants that are on this webinar. It's really impressive to see. But they did a performance together and then also gave presentations. Inyom and Sedana was the Balinese Dalang, who was, I believe, in Georgia at the time, somewhere in the southern United States. But so we did cover at least some of his travel, if I remember correctly, for him to perform. And he also gave a presentation. Then there were people that came from further afield. So Bob Brown, who started the program at Wesleyan, was, I believe at that time still in California. Maybe he was in Illinois, University of Illinois, actually. But in any case, he flew in. Michael Tenzer came from, who I also saw on the call, who was at Yale University for many years. So he came back to Connecticut to take part. But mostly, and Neil Searle came from England. So there were a few people that were coming from further afield, but it was mostly a local event. And I think there is something to that. There's this kind of strength in having local communities, and it's also just practical as far as travel. Traveling across the US, especially with instruments, is prohibitively expensive. But so maybe we could think about ways to combine in-person events with webcasting to increase the reach to communities further afield and between the United States and other countries, and especially Indonesia, when we're talking about Indonesian performing arts. Maybe one other event. So I also organized a conference. This was for the Cornell Modern Indonesia Project, a number of state of the field conferences that we put on. And in some ways, it was similar in model to the New England Gamelan Weekend. The difference was this was primarily a conference, an academic conference. So there were many panel sessions, but we did, Andy, and it was like, again, Andy McGraw and I who organized this, we did feel it important to really take stock of the state of Indonesian music. So in Indonesia and in the outside of Indonesia, so for practical reasons, focusing on the United States and Canada. So we did have performances, and those were both traditional performances and contemporary. There was also keroncong. So it was selective. It would have been nice to have a pop group, maybe a metal group or a dangdut group, but that wasn't practical. We also had, this was very nice, that the art gallery, Johnson Museum, was able to sponsor a residency of Jompek Kuswidananto, a really fantastic visual artist primarily, but he works a lot with installation and incorporates sound in his work. And he was a member of Teater Garasi in Yogyakarta, a very active theater collective. And played in a rock band, so he has that background as well. And we also took advantage of Klenningan tour, a tour of this group, Mundi Raras. Actually, if I go back to special events, the Klenningan featuring Mundi Raras. So they did a tour of the United States. Phil Asimovich organized this tour. And that was really a fantastic, the way that we organized it, they did play by themselves, but then there was a part of the event where other participants, including my students and then also conference attendees who played Javanese gamelan, joined in. So Matt was one of those who came out. He also presented in a roundtable. Yeah, so that was I think a quite successful event. And again, the Society for Ethnomusicology, which I presented at, and I'm a member of that society, that was entirely online this year. And I think there is a challenge in that it's a lot easier to let your own life take over and to not really participate in the conference. So I presented, but I only viewed a handful of other presentations because I was here at home and life goes on, and it was hard to extract myself and really carve out the time. Whereas when you go to a conference and you're there in person, it's easier to dedicate yourself to that. At least that was my personal experience. But I think talking to others, that was a common experience. I had also thought of talking about the different projects I've done at Cornell, but maybe I won't go through all those, but just to make some points about it, that of course, being at a university and a very well-funded university, I am able to leverage, I'm very fortunate to be able to leverage resources here. So to put on the kinds of projects that we did, that have these different funding sources from Cornell. But really, as important as that is taking advantage of the presence of Indonesians in the US. So I think a major, as far as the in-person kind of collaborations that happen here in the US or outside of Indonesia, the real challenge is funding to pay for travel, and then also visa issues. And that's just a very difficult, time-consuming process. And depending on, and the US doesn't make it easy for people to come to visit especially from certain countries, unfortunately. And I'm sure everyone who works with the embassy and the consulate is very familiar with these challenges. But it is possible, of course. And I don't know if there's any way to smooth that. I think it is just to make that process easier. But so there were cases where I used funding from different sources to bring people in specifically for projects. There are other cases where I would piggyback on other initiatives. So again, collaborating with Andy McGraw with projects that he put on, or Phil Asimovich. Those were two significant ones. Trying to think, Momenta Quartet is a group that I've collaborated, a string quartet, I've collaborated with them. They've worked a lot with the composer Tony Pabowo and Nyakina Rasuki. I'll go to my previous slide actually. Whoops, not that one. Show navigator.
Excuse me, the time maybe from Pak Miller.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll just maybe sum up there. Just that that's taking advantage of people who are already here, but some kind of coordination between groups that helps a lot to share the cost of bringing artists to the United States.
Yeah.
And then we can think about ways to network for when those people from the United States go to Indonesia to collaborate as artists. How can we find the different places to create different opportunities to perform in different locations? Okay, so thank you very much for your attention. Terima kasih.
Yeah. Terima kasih Pak Miller, fantastic presentation, and then the collaboration that has been executed by university in the US. I believe that Prof. An as the rector of ISB, and then Prof. Ashari as the vice chairman of Chancellor Council of Public University of Indonesia could have the idea how to enhance this collaboration. So within this time, as COVID pandemic is part of the life of us, and then how we could sustain this collaboration, although we are facing the uncertainty and instability. Now we are going to have the last but not least speaker, because we have so many questions, I believe, from the participant. Mbak Jillian, yeah, we would like to invite Mbak Jillian dari University of California in Davis, and also as the General Manager of Gamelan Sekarjaya in Davis, California. Silahkan, Mbak Jillian.
Thank you so much, Bu Papi. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much to the coordinators for bringing us all together today, to Bu Papi, Prof. Iin, and Mas Matt for arranging this meeting, and for all of the esteemed speakers before me for sharing such wonderful thoughts and making me so happy to think about times when we can all be together in person again. I don't want to take too much time so that we can have a lot of discussion afterwards. I'm so excited to hear from all of you. But I thought I would share with you a little bit about what Gamelan Sekarjaya has been doing in the pandemic, and some thoughts we have about coordinating and having collaboration between Indonesia and the United States. So I am here representing Gamelan Sekarjaya today. GSJ is a nonprofit organization for the Balinese arts in Berkeley, California, and we recently celebrated our 41st anniversary, so we are hoping for many more years of making music together. GSJ's mission is to foster artistic exchange between Bali and the United States through residencies, workshops, performances, and the creation of innovative new works of music and dance. and also to share the excitement of this exchange with diverse audiences in California, the US, and abroad. And as an organization dedicated to artistic exchange, we at GSJ care so deeply about the cultural collaboration with Indonesian artists, not just with Balinese musicians, but with all kinds of artists in Indonesia. And we are so happy to be invited to take part in this discussion. During the pandemic, we have found a few ways, like the other speakers here, to keep making music together and to pursue our goals of artistic exchange and collaboration. Luckily, we have been able to find some ways to meet and learn music together. When we are able, we do hybrid practices in local parks, and we have children and other people who hear us practicing gamelan music and are just so excited and interested to see what's happening. It's been a really wonderful way to outreach to people that we wouldn't have seen before. And we also have had online rehearsals, which is, of course, very difficult to try to practice gamelan and our kotakan while we are all online on Zoom, but we are trying our best and making it work. And a lot of our members have said that even though it's very difficult to learn this way, being able to learn online and take a pause from performances this season has been really exciting, because we've been able to learn instruments that we wouldn't necessarily have had time for before. So we have dancers who are learning to play kendang, and angklung ensemble musicians who are learning new kotakan patterns, and all sorts of new exciting learning is going on, even though it's more difficult than usual. We have also been able to offer online classes, which is exciting because we can now reach people even not in the US who wouldn't normally have been able to take our classes. And we have implemented a sliding scale rate so that our classes are more accessible to more kinds of people. And we've had a really exciting an exciting response to that. And I myself am learning how to dance baris very, very poorly. So if you're interested in our classes, I put our website in the chat. You can check out what our classes are going to be for next season when we announce them. But that's been really exciting. And my colleague Rebecca Seelan, our operations manager, over the summer put together a really amazing speaker series called the Bali's Living Arts series, in which we connected viewers around the world with young Balinese and Balinese American artists, including Imade Moja, Ni Putu Harini, Nino Mansraya Murtikanti, Putu Hiran Maena, Amiko Susilo, and others, to learn about how the pandemic has affected arts communities and how we are all still trying to make art and connect with each other despite the difficulty. And with the proceeds from this program, we were able to send support to our former guest artists and their families in Bali. So I would echo our other speakers in stating how great it can be to offer speaker series and to be able to raise up the voices of Indonesian artists and bring them to new communities of people. And I really love Mas Matt's idea for a communal Indonesian arts calendar. I think that's really, really excellent. So I would love to see more ideas like that. And in January, this is very exciting, we are beginning our remote teaching fellowship program, which will allow us to learn from the wisdom of our Balinese teachers, Pak Ida Bagus Made Winyana and Bu Dewa Ayu Tiara Dewi, while still prioritizing everyone's health and safety. So we will have them as teachers in digital residence for our spring 2021 season, which is really exciting. So all of this to say that I think the future for cross-cultural collaboration between Indonesia and the US is really bright. And we all have this really difficult pause in which we can use that time to create and to think ahead about what we might do when we can see each other again, and to take the wisdom of what we've learned from navigating these strange digital interfaces and create hybrid programs that are even more successful than what we were doing before the pandemic. I discussed these ideas with a few of our members from GSJ before this presentation to ask them about collaborations between Indonesian and American artists that were really meaningful to them in the past, and specifically about their experiences at a few of the gamelan festivals and large events that we used to be able to have and hopefully will be able to have again. And I just want to share a few of the things that they said with you because I thought it was really meaningful. The most heartening thing that I heard from so many people was that being together with other musicians who are also making the kind of music that we all love, any kind of Indonesian music really, was that it awakened them to the fact that Indonesian music and love of Indonesian music is a worldwide phenomenon, that we can connect with so many different people and we don't feel alone in the things that we love and the music that we love. And that's what actually that's from Michael Tenzer, who I think is here on this call somewhere. So hopefully he can speak for himself later on. He was speaking then about Expo 86 in Vancouver when there were over 30 plus gamelan groups from around the world meeting together and making music together in Vancouver. And it was really one of the first times or the first time that something like that had happened. And it was such a big moment for so many people who were there. I wasn't there, of course. I was not here yet. But I hope that we can have times like that again, where it's this sort of awakening for gamelan musicians in Indonesia and in the US to know more about our partners and our collaborators across the world. And I think also I want to echo some things that Matt said about supporting our local communities and learning how to have more interaction with the communities that are around us while we are also connecting with people who are far away from us. This is something we've been thinking a lot about at GSJ, how to maintain our strong connection to Bali, but also to strengthen our relationships with our community that is around us here in Berkeley. So I hope that in the future, if we have another large gathering of gamelan musicians and Indonesian artists from Indonesia and the US, that we can take that opportunity to connect with the local community wherever this event is hosted so that we can find some really new and surprising collaborations between local communities and global communities. And I want us to get to the discussion, so I won't say much more, but I just wanted to add that I have one very special memory of a really beautiful collaboration between Indonesian musicians and US Americans, which was right before the pandemic on March 7th, when the House of Angklung came to UC Davis from Washington, D.C., and had a really beautiful presentation. And of course, it's quite strange now to think of how wonderful it was to have all these people together in one room, breathing near each other. But it was a really lovely feeling to have us all making music on the Sundanese angklung together. I think that the angklung is such a lovely way to introduce Indonesian music, especially to non-musicians who might be nervous about trying to make music together. But that's the kind of energy that I'm looking forward to in future events and collaborations. All learning music together and playing together and singing together. I hope that it can happen again soon. And until then, I know that our innovation and collective spirit will carry us through in figuring out how to collaborate. So that's all from me. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Bu Papi, and I'm looking forward so much to hearing the discussion tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Jillian, for the great presentation, and then also highlighted some idea about enhancing the collaboration in research and education between U.S. higher education in the U.S. and also in Indonesia, and also bridged by U.S. Communities such as Nusantara Art, who also proactive in engaging the community in the US and also community in Indonesia, and also with higher education in Indonesia and in the US. Now we are going to have the question session and answers. I believe that there are some question has been sent by the participant. First question is about as we know that now we are facing the COVID pandemic, and then many art and cultural communities cannot perform due to COVID-19, and then some restriction about number of people who can meet in certain places. So how far the communities has tackling this kind of problem, particularly in using technology. Matt has been highlighting about the use of technology, digital transformation, and then we would like also to know, ya, kita ingin mengetahui sampai sejauh mana Ibu Rektor ISBI menggunakan teknologi untuk meningkatkan ya aksesabilitas ini. Mungkin bisa dijawab satu persatu ya. Maybe we could have the answers from each speaker about digital transformation that has been done by each communities in handling in coping the situation of the pandemic. And also maybe all the participants here also is come from higher education, would also know what happens in the US, and then what is the best practices has been done by the communities and also by higher education. Okay, maybe who would try to answer the question? Maybe Pak Matt, and then Pak. Yeah, okay, silahkan.
Yeah, I can go first. So we decided early in the pandemic that we could do a few different things. The first priority was to make sure that our musicians in Buffalo were staying engaged, because it was very abrupt. We were practicing twice per week in person and getting ready for different concerts. And then after that, we had to abruptly change our format to an online format. So what we started doing was online music theory classes. So in our normal activities, we actually don't talk about music theory that often. We try to teach gamelan music in Buffalo, similar to the community groups how the way they're also practiced in Indonesia. So it's mostly about listening and repeating, and just sort of like feeling the music a little bit. So after we had this issue, we were able to actually engage with the music in a different way, which was specific music theory information that we normally don't talk about. So that was the first thing. The second thing was the lecture series that we started here in Buffalo, and sort of became a global phenomenon, we can say. And I think the thing that was the most important part about the success of the lecture series, called the Gamelan Masters Guest Lecture Series, was the collaboration between different academics, enthusiasts, and also master musicians in the United States and also in Indonesia. So we had so many people pooling their resources to make something that none of us could individually do on our own. So the digital technology allows us to, we can all use our best qualities to, you know, promote something that we can do, but we can also give space for somebody else to promote something that they're very good at, you know. And the more we can sort of recognize and allow space for different people with different skills to shine in the digital space, I think it'll be relevant and interesting for a long time. So that's my answer there to that question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Matt. Selanjutnya, maybe dari Bu En atau Pak Chris atau Bu Julian. Maybe Pak Chris, would you mind to to share? You have already highlighted fantastic program that has been mentioned by Cornell University. So we are really keen the digital transformation in order to cope with the pandemic situation where we cannot show the performance, but actually we want to show the performance of most of the artists here, and then we also would like to know the progress of student in exercising all the art and cultural performance.
So one thing that came to mind was this is something that I do again from my course, but that could be adapted to a more general audience, so not just academic. I do an assignment where I have students explore. I ask them to find examples of various types of Indonesian music online, mostly from YouTube, although it could be from other sources, and then to write commentary on them. So this is an example. I think I am sharing my screen. Yes.
Okay.
Not yet, Chris.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. Let me share the screen, and that'll be more meaningful. So this is this is an academic assignment that I have students do, but it could be done in a non-academic way to have. It's almost like to put together a radio show. Might be one model. So where I mean, people put together playlists on YouTube, of course. But one of the problems with YouTube is that there's really no, it's really hit or miss how much information like the quality of the information that goes with the videos. And it's not a problem if you already know what they are. You can just enjoy what they are. But with what I do in this assignment is I ask students to try to find out a little bit more about them, or to ask questions like what do we want to know about them. And this is a way of sharing and to ask them to find examples that have to do with a particular topic. So it's mostly things that they're researching for their papers. So because there's a tremendous amount that's already on YouTube, but this could be sort of a value added approach to that, where I'm not sure what the best format would be for this. Maybe it is, I mean, it could be if there was a way to do something like a mixtape. I know it's hard sharing video over YouTube, but maybe there's something here that could be explored, a way of having. It could also be someone with particular knowledge about a particular genre or ensemble or scene, kind of give a guided tour to what's going on, making use of video that's already uploaded on the web. So that's one idea that came to mind. That's based on something that I do in my class.
Very much for sharing. I think this could give us the idea about the best practices of the digital transformation for sharing the education part. Okay, thank you very much. Maybe Jillian would add some information. Maybe your experiences as the GM of Gamelan Sekarjaya in coping with the COVID pandemic, and then using digital technology or transforming the situation to more lively, more accessible, more promising. That's life still can be studied, can be shown.
Yeah, I think it's been difficult for us, but also rewarding to be able to make some changes and see them work well. So I think what has been most useful for us. Oh, maaf Bu Papi.
Yeah.
Mungkin bisa mute. Oh yeah, maaf ya. Oh, why is it? Maaf, ada masalah dengan audio.
Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry. There is an echo in my headphones. It's very weird.
Jillian, I just muted everybody. Mute yourself and try again.
Okay, how is that? No, it's still bad. I don't know why. Sorry, maybe better I don't talk, but I will put some links in the chat.
What?
Hi,
my name is Hi, my name is Randy.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe you can share the link. Now the second question delivered by the audience of the collaborations. Art and culture has been known as one of the most powerful cultural diplomacy for building a strong relationship between countries like US and Indonesia. And then the first attaché in the US are operating in Indonesian embassy. And then based on the historical activities that has been done by Indonesian embassy, art is one of the most promising tools for engaging the collaboration. So disruption happens not only this pandemic happen and then causing the disruption among sector, not only in educational sector but also in most industrial sector. Even the economy are stopped due to the COVID-19. But we believe that through art and cultural activities, we could enhance and also we could sustain something that enlarge. What kind of the most implemented collaboration without using any formal tools such as MOU and etc. So we can just get connected directly. So what is the facility, and then with the community, and then between university and university. Yeah. Maybe Pak Matt would answer first. Or maybe from the audience also, we invite the additional information.
I'm sorry, Ibu Poppy, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So we know that the collaboration usually need formal paperwork, such as memorandum of understanding, yes, some kind of MOU, and then it takes time. But now we can just do face-to-face meeting by using digital meeting, using Zoom, many platform. Using a formal way sometimes takes time, but times it goes by, and then we need more fastest way to engage. Yeah.
Okay, I understand. So it's always a difficult thing to have, you know, some kind of a process or bureaucracy that's slowing down the process here. Because we all have an idea, and when we have the idea, we want to implement it right away, you know, but of course there's always different kinds of paperwork, whether it's, you know, like Chris was saying, you know, whenever we want to bring Indonesian artists to the United States, there's many issues with visas and other things. And when we're in the digital space, and the MOU is also, you know, for us, you know, we always have to make sure we have a good MOU, because the MOU will protect both parties, you know, who, you know, the person who's hosting and the person who's giving the work will, you know, they'll both make sure they benefit and they're protected. So that, you know, how can we move faster? I guess that is the question. And Nusantara Arts likes to move very fast, and maybe too fast in some situations. But the reason why we like to move fast is because, you know, when we have an idea, we don't want it to necessarily get stale, you know. So if it's a relevant idea now, we want it to happen when it's relevant, which, you know, but of course there's other things that take more planning, and those will just take more time, and it's okay. But hopefully, you know, hopefully people can just see, you know, if somebody is approaching a collaborator for an event, you know, hopefully the MOU is, you know, or, you know, the agreement is something that can be made easily and simply, you know, and hopefully there's not too many roadblocks in the process of making events. And, you know, we like to trust people, and we like to make sure that people are, you know, taken care of, you know, with whatever they need. So we're just upfront with people, and we ask, what do you need to make this happen? You know, if it's a payment issue, we ask, how much do you need to get paid, you know, to make sure that the payment is correct. So I guess those are the main issues. And I think in a, you know, in a governmental bureaucratic sort of way, I'm not sure how to speed those or get around those issues, you know, to make those faster.
Okay, thank you. Pak Miller, would you mind to add, Pak Chris?
I guess the one thing that I might add is that it has been my experience that sometimes when there's an institution to institution connection, that does get mired in bureaucracy. And that often what works better is individual to individual types of connections. That can be challenging to do without the institutions to help with things like visas, to help with of course online, anybody, that's much more, it's much easier to have online interactions without getting institutions involved. But I do think of times where sometimes but sometimes the institutions get in the way, and like there's a specific artist that we might want to work with, and they say, oh no, we want to send this person because of institutional considerations of hierarchy or of who needs to get that experience. And that might not be what is really most beneficial to the institute, to the people wanting to sponsor the project in the US in terms of bringing someone to the US from Indonesia to do a collaboration. So I think if there are ways to really support individual to individual connections, I think that's actually very, very valuable. As much as it also, I think there is value, of course, as well in making connections between institutions, but I think that the personal connections, especially with in terms of creative, kind of doing new collaborative work, new creation, composition, penciptaan. There you really want the different participants to be cocok, fully cocok, and the personal connection there is sangat penting.
Yeah, I think this is very important. Terima kasih Pak Chris, personal connection and kecocokan ya. I think this is 2 point that amazing. Thank you for reminding this. For finding kecocokan is, I know it's not easy. Yeah, takes time, and then we have to know one another. Mbak Gillian mau menambahkan? Ibu N atau Pak Burhan masih di sini? Ya silahkan Mbak Gillian.
Ya, mungkin bisa coba lagi ya. Yeah, I think for me, I haven't been working with GSJ long enough that I can really speak to the challenges and triumphs of bringing guest artists from Bali over to the United States to work with us. But I do think that what I see as the biggest challenge and difficulty right now is timing, because I know that it takes quite a long time to get visas and such ready, even if you have the financial capacity to be able to invite people and pay for travel expenses, because everything feels rather unstable right now and we don't know how things will change in the next year, that it's been very difficult to make long-term plans. And so I think that what we need to do in order to make sure that we succeed with our plans, however we make them, is to have a high degree of flexibility and to count on hybrid plans for all of the things that we're trying to make happen in the future. And as for how to make that happen, well, I think we're all still figuring it out together, but that's the biggest challenge that I see.
Okay, thank you for highlighting also some kind of very important issue. Ada pertanyaan untuk Pak Miller. How about the Ngudi Laras program, Pak Miller? Because in Sundanese and Javanese gamelan have many tuning. Laras, each of which has different interval. From Professor Endang Caturwati. The question is from Professor Endang Caturwati.
Ya, apa pertanyaan itu? Kalau laras gamelan yang ada di Cornell, kalau ada masalah itu kurang cocok untuk pegawai yang datang, itu pertanyaan maksudnya?
Iya, pertanyaannya about the difference, the difference of Sundanese and Javanese gamelan, ya.
Ya, yang program yang kelenengan itu khusus gamelan Jawa.
Iya.
Ya, jadi tidak ada
Ngudi
masalah.
Laras untuk Jawa, Javanese gamelan ya.
Ya, untuk proyek itu.
Untuk
Saya
proyek
kira gamelan Selendro cukup dekat. Bisa kalau ada orang yang datang. Kalau mau berkolaborasi dengan penggerak dari gamelan Sunda, saya kira bisa.
Ya, mungkin demikian Profesor Endang ya mengenai jawaban pertanyaan tadi yang berhubungan dengan Javanese and Sundanese gamelan. Mungkin bisa langsung di chat ya ke Pak Chris untuk pertanyaan selanjutnya. Nah, ini waktu sudah menunjukkan 9.58, 2 menit lagi waktu hampir selesai. We would like to inform daftar hadir silahkan diisi. Bagi yang menginginkan sertifikat silahkan diisi link daftar hadirnya, diisi sampai dengan lengkap. Kemudian kami ingin menyampaikan informasi. We would like also to inform our activity in showing the art and cultural performance by collaborating with US community in Amerika on the 18th of December. Nanti akan di-share ya flyernya. Kemudian Pak Ismet akan sharing informasi. Silakan Pak Ismet. Nanti kita foto bersama dahulu ya sebelum kita selesaikan. Pak Ismet mau menyampaikan informasi?
In the few days ahead, basically in December 17 until 21, ISB Bandung have a festival. We call the West Java Folklore Festival 2020. It's a virtual program. I hope everyone can also join with us. I think this is quite good information because we invited all the many traditional performance from all the West Java countries come together. So I think so. Please join with us from 17th December 17th to 20 December. It will be start on at night, unfortunately, about 7:30 in the evening. So please welcome and thank you very much.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Ismet. We also would like to inform, we just share a flyer of the virtual Indonesian Cultural Night hosted by the Indonesian Embassy in Washington, D.C. We would like to invite all the participants here to attend in our virtual Indonesian Cultural Night performed by US communities such as Gamelan Sekarjaya, Pusaka Sunda, Gamelan Kusuma Laras, Nusantara Art, Gamelan Sinar Surya, East Hawaii Gamelan. So there is the performance also from East Hawaii. Waktu Indonesia adalah Sabtu 19 Desember jam 8 pagi. Waktu Amerika Serikat adalah Jumat 18 Desember. Dan mohon kiranya untuk dapat mengisi link daftar hadir. Di situ ada pertanyaan-pertanyaan. Kami ingin mengetahui sampai sejauh mana untuk kolaborasi yang bisa dikerjasamakan. Sebelum kita tutup, kita akan foto bersama dahulu ya. Boleh di screen-nya dibuka semuanya. Nah, ada beberapa screen. Ya, pertama satu, ya kemudian ya sudah ada, bagus ya. Terima kasih. Kemudian layar yang ketiga, silahkan dibuka semuanya. Oh ya. Ketiga, kemudian yang keempat, silahkan dibuka screen-nya. Ayo, yang keempat masih belum pada dibuka. Kemudian screen yang kelima. Screen ke-6. Screen 7. 8, 9, 10 ya. Ada 10 screen ya, sudah selesai. Mungkin satu pertanyaan terakhir walaupun sudah lewat. Saya mau menyampaikan satu pertanyaan. Would it be possible Pak Chris dan Mbak Jillian yang dari universitas join discussion between classes ya dengan student Amerika dengan student Indonesia. Apakah memungkinkan Pak Chris dan Mbak Jillian yang studi di ya khususnya Pak Chris yang dari Cornell University. Potensi misalnya Ibu EN, Prof EN ada kelas mengajar di ISBI, kemudian Pak Kris mengajar juga di Cornell, kemudian nanti studentnya sharing session even for 30 minutes or 1 hour ya, for exchanging what happened in Indonesia, what happened in the US in similar topic or maybe in different topic ya.
Can I little bit have a small speech?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also ISB already have many times doing this also, like with the Malaysian university, we call it Gladinalar. Yeah, we present some students and some lecturer from of countries. Also, they try to give some preview for the student. Also, it's kind of like a sharing session between all the students.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Ismet yang sudah menambahkan ya, Pak Kris.
Yeah.
I think I think it'd be wonderful to have students share. I know that mostly, I mean, my experience at Cornell, and I'd be interested to hear if this is different at other universities, but unfortunately, despite Indonesia being the 4th largest country in the world, most American, even well-educated students just know so little about it. So I don't know how, I think that what we would have to offer is not so much any information as just questions. Because I think their perspectives are limited unless there is some topic. I mean, of course, there's just, I don't know, I would have to think more about like how the collaboration could be two-way when students are involved. But I think it'd be, I like that idea a lot of trying to get students, groups of students directly in contact with one another. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. So this is the initial, engagement that maybe would enhance this program. Yeah. Particularly for avoiding the barrier, as we mentioned. Usually for building the collaboration, we need some kind of MOU. But of course, the MOU would also be part of the engagement. We have to have that, and then in order for us to have fastest way to build the engagement, maybe we could start by having joint classes together, and then joint discussion together in one of the classes that managed by our lecturer in Indonesian university, and also in the US university. I think Cornell University also is one of the oldest university who has been doing research in early beginning of Indonesian and US diplomatic relationship built. And then we have known also Cornell is the largest institution and higher education in the US who has been publishing many research and then also many artifacts and also many sources that can be studied by us. Okay, due to the time constraint, it's already 2 hours, and we would like to thank to all participants who have been attending this event. We also would like to thank to Ministry of Education and Culture, the Republic of Indonesia, under higher education, and then also we are really looking forward for having more engagement under the cultural division. And also would like to thank to the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Washington DC, the Indonesian Rector Forum of Public Universities of Indonesia, Professor Ashari as the Rector of ITS, Institut Teknologi 10 November in Surabaya, send his best regard, and then looking forward for having a strong connection between all of the speakers to enhance the collaboration between 92 higher education in Indonesia. Yeah. And then also Indonesian Art and Cultural Institute of Bandung of ISBI, Ibu Rektor, Ibu EN, Professor EN, thank you very much for agreeing as the host for this event. So this event is not the first and also not the last. We have 9 ISBI, yeah, 9 Indonesian art and culture in Indonesia, one in Aceh, one in Padang, and then in Jakarta, in Bandung, Yogyakarta, Solo, and Wiwatikna, Surabaya, Denpasar, and Jayapura. We hope that through this branding of US Indonesia research and collaboration in art and culture, we can host all together with the 9 institutions and then with the other US institution in higher education and US art and cultural communities such as Nusantara Art and also other US communities. We also would like to thank to Pak Met Nusantara Art for coordinating to host this event with all the speakers today. Without your support, yeah, I think this event would not be taken place as today. And we also would like to thank to all honorable participants who has shared some information. Ibu Jody, terima kasih ya, very productive information. We could learn all the information shared in the chat room. And then we are hoping that we could engage more with the information. Terima kasih kepada Pak Ismet juga sebagai salah satu pembicara yang telah hadir di acara ini. Kemudian juga kepada, we would like also to thank to Pak Burhan Sukarma as the Director Founder Pusaka Sunda San Jose, California, dan Ibu Ryan Stahel, Founder Pusaka Sunda sama di San Jose, California. Dan juga kepada Pak Chris Miller, terima kasih tadi ide-idenya dan juga potensi untuk kolaborasi yang bisa dieksekusi langsung. Dan juga Mbak Gillian Irwin, GM dari Gamelan Sekarjaya Davis di California. Terima kasih, sampai berjumpa pada kesempatan lain yang akan kami laksanakan untuk US Indonesia Research and Education Collaboration. Sampai jumpa di lain kesempatan. See you. Sampai berjumpa di lain kesempatan. Terima kasih.